We thought it would be a good idea if we got together. Dara and I thought it'd be a great idea if we got together today to kind of, I guess, cover some things about the authoring tool accessibility guidelines, just to get you guys off to a strong start when doing some of these SCORM items and SCORM products. So I actually have done this several presentations similar to this, so I didn't have to do a lot of preparation because I had this already available, because that's how much important it is right now, because there are so many authoring tool publishers and developers, and they are not developing accessibly. And once they publish, it's nearly impossible for end user to go back and help them if we don't have the original raw file. So we try to really encourage the developers, anyone who's doing any course authoring, to do your accessible practices in advance. We may not get through the entire presentation for an hour, but we'll try our best. First, I'll just go ahead and validate for those of you who don't know me, which I think is just Danny and Reggie. I want to let you guys know that I have over 15 years of experience in, I guess you would call it, the innovative application of EdTech and a lot of health education to support some operative and pragmatic transformations for a variety and assortment of sectors that include healthcare, education, business, and government. So I do take pride in this unique perspective that I've earned over the years, and I leverage these for my cultural competence, instruction, and while guiding, I guess you could say, those in leadership or those who hold leadership positions in a journey to refine their discernment and create some measurable and relevant change in regards to accessibility. So by understanding how the lack of equitable and digital access adversely impacts specific communities, I went on and continued my education and earned some advanced degrees in educational leadership, and I earned another advanced degree in some healthcare stuff. And from what I learned during those academic experiences is my profession has definitely provided me with these unique opportunities to engage and lead you all in digital access as well as accessibility. And I'm also an active board member with W3C WCAG and the ARIA project. And I currently collaborate with W3C on the next generation of success standards, which is WCAG guidelines 2.1. And we are actually already moving to 2.2, and we just launched 2.1. So it's moving pretty quick because technology is moving so fast. Now, currently, this is a great time, and it presents all these wonderful opportunities for us to inject these diverse perspectives on how we can improve these refreshed guidelines. And I was also on the team that was tasked to develop those specific standards of communicating accessibility evaluation results and methods that support precise documentation. My experience centers mainly on WCAG conformance testing, where I translate the areas to address when aiming to achieve conformance while addressing a raised issue. My best practice is just to ensure that it is communicated authentically in plain language and to provide an explanation of conceivable adverse experiences for differently abled users. So lastly, I do prescribe to reproduce access as well as accessibility in environments and test for resolutions with practical approaches when outlining suggestions and recommendations for how we can achieve conformance, improve accessibility, support digital equity, and how we can narrow this digital gap that we seem to have for the most ubiquitous group of individuals without regards to their specific abilities. So we're going to go ahead and I want to prepare you to let you know that ATAG is an actual WCAG guideline. It is supported by W3C, and that's what I focus on heavily. So there is a level A, AA, and AAA. to ATAG, the Authoring Tool Accessibility Guideline, okay? These are just what we're going to go over for the next 45 minutes or so. Is I'm going to talk about some of the requirements that are relevant to the content, to you guys, to the developers. We're going to review, mainly I'm going to focus on ATAG, and we're going to talk, maybe I might skip through procurement practices. That's not something that's really going to be a heavy focus for your duties. And we may talk a little bit about web content authoring and some text alternatives, especially when dealing with course authoring tools. As of the last revision of this document, we were unaware of any single authoring tool that fully supports production of accessible content. Some developers, they are improving the support of accessibility in their authoring tool, and there are some utilities that may help supplement gaps in the existing authoring tools. UAAG, WCAG, ATAG, these documents, they provide information that help find improved authoring tools or improved ways to develop your content or to work around your gaps that are existing in either your authoring tools or in any content that you're producing. And it includes, if you look at any of the guidelines, like if you take a moment and pull up the ATAG, it'll include some questions that are asked, questions to ask like your software vendors regarding accessibility support to the current and any upcoming projects. And that's why you'll quite often hear me talk about the VPAT, and I always refer back to the VPAT because that's what the vendor is saying that they can do for that item. The VPAT is the accessibility, I guess you could say the conformance promise that they give to us. So I always refer back to that, but it's not always correct. Now, the ATAG covers software that's used to create applications that are going to go on the internet. That also includes mobile. UAAG, it covers the browsers for those who identify as being differently able, and it uses the web on and how they use the web on their mobile devices. So those are our user groups. WCAG, the web content accessibility, they also cover web pages and applications as well as mobile devices. It's the umbrella or the parent. ATAG covers software used to create mainly web-centered course authoring. So these are things that are going to be published and placed on the web and also on your mobile devices. Now, by mobile, I mean cell phone, tablet, iPad, whatever, anything that you can pick up and walk away with. Interestingly, that's changed over the years because my computer is actually a tablet. So now we're trying to look at how we can redefine what mobile means, because obviously with as fast as technology is moving, some of our guidelines are not up to date, which is why we are already moving over to 2.2. Accessible content needs to reach each and every student, person, reader, customer, whatever, irrespective of their age, their level of literacy, or any physical various abilities. Accessibility of web portals refer to the degrees to which it is available to many people, to as many people as possible. In order to achieve this, the W3C, they launched the WAI, which is the Web Accessibility Initiative, in April of 1997. So obviously, a lot has changed, and that's why there's so many versions. And the WAI consists of several working groups. The Authoring Tool Accessibility Guideline Working Group, which is ATAG, User Agent Accessibility Guidelines, which is UAAG, the Web International Working Group, and some others, each with their own specific focus. The working groups, they are private companies, they're individuals who volunteer to introduce the standardization that will kind of make sure that accessibility of web products are based on those three levels, level A, level AA, and triple A. A schematic representation of the guidelines included in WCAG 2.0, ATAG 2.0, and UAAG are represented in this diagram here. There are significant interdependencies between these components, meaning that the components must work together in order for the web to be accessible. So these items are interdependent on one another. They are not going to be able to function as they stand alone. When you have more time, please take a moment to look at that diagram. And it's a diagram that's used quite often through W3C and WCAG, so it's easy to even find it online and find more information about it. But what's more important for us is the authoring tools section, and that is just where we want to ensure that developers can enable, facilitate, promote, alternative, for example, text in a web content, just giving us some guidelines and standards that we can follow. So the ATAG explains how to make the authoring tool themselves accessible so that people who are differently able can create web content. And it also helps authors create more accessible web content, specifically enable support and promote the production of content that conforms to WCAG. ATAG is a part of a series of accessibility guidelines, including WCAG and UAAG. So when I say that WCAG is the parent, then you can look at it like a UAAG and ATAG are the children. Now, ATAG has been recommended by the working group just to make sure that they focus strictly on course authoring tools. The first version came out, ATAG 1.0, in year 2000, which was 20 years ago. And now we're just getting 2.0 in 2015. So it took us 15 years to get a new version, which tells you that it's still not up to date. UAAG has been recommended by their own working group just to make sure that user agents or those who are using assistive technology, they are accessing products that are accessible. And that, I know I just said a lot of words, but they want to maintain and verify accessibility of different user agents. And when I say user agents, I mean, like, say, if they're using web browsers or media players, things of that nature. And assistive technology, like your text-to-speech synthesizers, Dragon, something similar to that. The first version of UAAG came out in 2002, and later they added some extra features. And so now we do have a new version underway, but the ATAG, please, if you're going to use that as a reference, use 2.0 because 1.0 is entirely too out of date. It was from 20 years ago. So the last working draft of UAAG was it came out in 2015. That was 2.0, but there is a new 2.1 coming out for UAAG as well. It is based on those 26 guidelines, the 5 principles: that perceivable, operable, understandable, programmatic access, some specifications, the conventions. So there's a lot dealing with UAAG, and I do give I do have a webinar that I host on UAAG because it is a beast of its own. And it is separate from ATAG. So don't get those two guidelines confused or try to apply UAAG to ATAG guidelines. Let's do a quick poll here. So I'm going to put a poll up real quick, and I want you to select the correct order from the options like on your screen. So kind of like matching, and you can say like UAAG and which one would it go with? 1, 3, or 2, or 1, 2, or 3, or 3, 1, or 2. and just do it in the order that it's supposed to be in. And it's kind of like matching, just match up the numbers and the statement. It is anonymous, so if you get it wrong, don't worry, no one will know about it. Let me see if I can get the poll going for you. Yeah, so you should see a poll. All right, so let's see. So most of you all think that the answer is A, 132. Let's see here. So the correct answer is actually B, 312. I did see a few of you did answer 312, but most of you all thought that it was 132, but it's 312. So I'll make sure that you have a copy of this so that you can look at the correct answers when you have time, but it's ATAG, UAAG, and WCAG. All right, so ATAG 2.0 addresses all kinds of authoring tools. This does include the what you see is what you get tools, like your save as HTML conversions tools that you will see in like word processors, or that you might see in something like a queries or database producing tools, site management tools like your CRMs, your LMSs. And ATAG has a companion set of techniques that help developers implement the guidelines in your products. So when you go to the ATAG site and you look at the guidelines, it will also give you a tool that'll help you implement this while you're developing. And ATAG explains that the authoring tool developers need to understand that their products, they should support accessible authoring practices, of course, but they also should generate standard markups, support ways of checking and correcting inaccessible content, as well as integrate accessibility into the overall look and feel of your products, and promote accessibility in your help and in any documentation that accompanies your products that you're producing. And you want to ensure that the tool is also, interestingly, and this is the part we forget about quite often, you want to make sure that the tool is accessible to authors who are differently able. So I often do look at, when I look at course authoring tools, I look at the published file, but I also look at the raw file, because I want to see if I were differently able and I wanted to develop using, say, Storyline or Captivate, whatever. I want to make sure that I have the ability to do that. And these guidelines do give you that guidance, because that is part of accessibility. And you can get in a lot of trouble and get sued if they cannot develop using that product. And so let's say if the Storyline was not, which they are, but let's say if they weren't accessible to authors or developers, that developer could actually sue them even though it's accessible once it's published. So that's why it's very important that they make sure that it's accessible to authors as well as the general public or its customers. There's two main parts to 2.0. Part A, it's about making the authoring tool accessible. Part B is making sure that it's helping the authors produce accessible content. So in other words, it should help developers produce web content that conforms to WCAG. And it is also going to have to make sure that it's accessible itself, so that people with disabilities can also create content, whether they are adding a blog comment or if they are just a full-time developer. And it's organized in these layers: principles, guidelines, and of course your success criteria. I know that looks familiar. It looks familiar because it's the same type of measuring system that WCAG has: single A, double A, triple A. The principles, they provide a high-level organization for the guidelines, and the guidelines provide the framework and the objectives for the success criteria. And then you have your success criteria. These are your actual accessibility requirements, and they are written in those testable statements, like where it's easy to test. And you do have your 3 levels, and this is where it falls under your success criteria. The authoring tool user interface follows applicable accessibility guidelines by making sure that its web-based functionality is accessible and making sure that its non-web-based functionality is accessible. They want to make sure that the authoring tool user interface, which is part of Part A, is also accessible. Part A has 13 guidelines and it's spread across 4 principles. So the A guidelines, they include things like editing views, making sure they're perceivable, operable, however they're going to edit it. They want to make sure that the interface is, you can edit that. They want to make sure that it's keyboard access only. The A level wants to give authors enough time. So we're making sure that it's not time-based to complete their development. We want to help authors avoid flashing products. So it wants to prevent authors from being able to easily put in flashing products, which I can tell you now, I have not ran across a course authoring tool that's done that very well. You want to enhance the navigation and of your product, making sure that I'm not spending more time trying to navigate your product as opposed to actually getting the content that I want to get out of it. And we also want to make sure that users can manage some type of preference settings, which we have not done a great job at either. We have done well at ensuring that the previews are at least accessible, right? We've done very good at that, and that the editing views, they are at least understandable if it's in editing mode. I've seen that done very well as well. The Part B, they want to support the production of accessible content with 11 guidelines that are also spread across these 4 principles. Want to make sure that there is a fully automatic process that will help you produce content, not only content, but accessible content. And we want to make sure that the information is somehow preserved. So that's when you see items that'll say, pick up where you left off. That is an accessibility feature. We want to ensure that authors are supported by making sure that they can produce content, and some of the authoring tools want to make sure that they can manage alternative content for your non-text items. Templates, we want our templates to be accessible. We need to do better with that. And we want to make sure that we can help authors when they're trying to use accessible pre-authored content. Authors, Part B focuses on authors supported in improving the accessibility of existing content. So we want them to be able to also check for accessibility problems and also be able to repair these accessibility issues. And Canvas LMS recently had a little issue with it. They fixed it now, but that's where their issue came in, was as a developer who is differently able, if I wanted to fix something that was inaccessible, they did not give me a good way of doing that. It was not accessible for me to do that as an author. So that same standard is also held to our authoring tools. We want to also make sure that these authoring tools are promoting and integrating accessibility, of course, by producing just accessible content and meeting those conformance levels of A, AA, AAA. Oh, here's a quick poll. This one is easier. That last one confused me, but this one is easier. All right. Let's see. We can look at the next poll, which is this one. ATAG is organized in 3 layers. Which 3 layers is ATAG organized in? And just take a quick guess. Okay, wow, you guys all got that correct. So I guess that was a easier one that made a lot more sense to us. All right, so the answer is four: principles, guidelines, and success criteria. Principles is the high level, the guidelines is the framework, and the success criteria are the testable statements that we use for measurement. So do you guys have any questions before I finish up or move through these last few? You can put them in the chat or just turn your microphone on.
So when you're going to run accessibility tests, how is it going to get documented for us to be able to apply any changes or any errors that are caught?
So what I'm hearing is, or what I understand it, and Karen, you can correct me, or Dara, correct me if I'm wrong. I understood it as the QA will communicate back to the ID that there has been an issue, correct?
I think that we're still honing in on the answer. My understanding is if it's fixable by, so QA, I think is a term that we're using, but we're shifting away from. We're saying that there will be a reviewer. And so essentially what they're looking for is they're making sure that the content is compatible with mobile, that it's mobile friendly. They're making sure that the content has been moved over properly and is being viewed properly. And then they're looking for accessibility. And we actually want for the person who is the reviewer to be making edits as they go. In a typical QA process, say with software development, the reviewer is not a coder and they don't necessarily have the tools to make the changes as they go. In this case, the reviewer will have those tools to make those changes. And so I believe that in the process flow diagram that we put together for review, that we have someone who's reviewing and making those changes. Now there are those that can be changed, and then there's those that can't. And that's what we need to have a way to log. And then once the changes are made across both A, what the reviewer is able to change, and B, what they log and submit for others to change, the review process has to loop again.
Okay.
That's my understanding, but others please build and poke holes because we're still figuring it out.
Have you all shared
Rachel?
the document, Karen?
Deanna shared it in a meeting recently. The review, the full life cycle process essentially of each course.
Okay. All right. I do have that. I have access to that.
But yeah, I'm not sure you were on that call, Keanu. But Rachel, how does that sound?
I don't know. I think we're probably just gonna have to do it.
Keep working through it. Yeah.
Yeah, because
yeah.
The accessibility testing that I've had on other projects has been done separate from QA, and it was literally testing like the screen readability of the course, making sure that links were able to be opened in another window and that they were properly labeled in the alt text and everything like that. So I think that if there are directions for how people are supposed to be doing that testing, if that's not something that they typically test for, that might be something that we really need to document to hand off.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would hope that our reviewers are using WCAG guidelines because those are testable. They're written in a testable way. So I would really hope that we reinforce that they use those guidelines, because it is pretty much a checklist and it tells them exactly what to look for to make sure that it's accessible. Even ATAG for course authoring tool, it's written in a testable way. We do have checklists or documentation to tell them exactly what to look for. All
Great.
right.
So as we fill those roles in subsequent sprints, because we're sprint 1, we have lean teams. I think that the problem to be solved will be how do we train for that, right? Like we have to build a process and then train those people as they come in for that specific segment of the QA process. We'll have course builders who are playing hybrid course migration and QA roles. So this will be a portion of what some of those people are doing, not what they're doing every single day across the project. So we'll have to build in that training. And that's why we're recording. Maybe they'll hear me saying this.
I hope so. All right. So we'll move on to the next. Oh, this is the next slide. So questions that you should look at when choosing a course authoring tool. I think we're pretty settled on ours, but we just want to make sure that our course authoring tools, just in case we incorporate any new ones or any future tools, we want to make sure that it supports accessibility of course by considering the WYSIWYG, HTML editors, any conversion tools like your Word, your presentation software. We want to ask questions like, does the authoring tool currently use, change, or remove any accessibility information? For example, alt text for images that has been added by any other tools or by your hand markups. And we want to ask for authoring tools that we're interested in procuring that do not support the creation of accessible content. Is there a plugin or any other utility that can be used with those products just to better support the production of accessible web content or content that's going to be published for the web? These are 3 considerations that I examined and I feel that I agree with as well. We want to consider for our authoring softwares, which applications are more conformant with ATAG, so conformance, I don't mean only ATAG, but WCAG as well, but ATAG if it's an authoring tool. For applications that don't, are there plugins that can fill the gaps? And which applications carry a developer's commitment to continue to improve their ATAG conformance in future versions? And I do know that Storyline is great at that because they have that cool knowledge base. Captivate is trying, but they're not that great, but they're trying to catch up with the way of taking some of those recommendations and suggestions. And some other course authoring, such as iSpring, they're trying to have their own communities as well. I'm going to skip through procurement and vendors. So if you are not fully conformant, some workarounds. Until authoring tools that more fully conform to ATAG are available, it's helpful to develop some strategies to work around the limitations of the tools that we have at our disposal. And some of those steps include becoming familiar with just the general concept at the guideline level, not necessarily the individual checkpoints, meaning your WCAG and your ATAG guidelines, at least knowing where to go to get those guidelines, identifying what the limitations are. And you want to go back to what you were saying, Reggie, by noting those recurring issues and notating issues that we see over and over again, that will help improve that process, especially if the content is inaccessible. It's having inaccessible output. Reading accessibility reviews of products is also helpful. And also, if you are a reviewer or using the checklist, you want to notate any features that specifically support the product that you're using. You can locate your plugins or any utilities that can be used in combination with the inaccessible course authoring tool, or you could, which we don't have to do that per se for our duties, but if we were to use something that's not accessible, I mean, that does not have guidelines or standards, but we want to check its accessibility, we can develop an in-house process or a checklist that can correct some accessibility issues that this tool may generate on its own or in conjunction with any other programs that we're using. If the template provides limitations that do not conform with WCAG or ATAG, then we need to look at developing some conformant templates that are appropriate to our specific use, our specific organizational needs. And then we need to find a way to distribute this throughout the developers within the organization. If an authoring tool does not create valid markups according to a published document type, we need to be able to use it in conjunction with a cleanup tool. There's cleanup tools such as HTML Tidy, I know, that works pretty well. And there's several other cleanup tools that fix any markup issues that we may be having. If it's a multimedia authoring tool, such as like Camtasia, which comes from After Effects, something of that, those are the ones I use the most, and it does not support the creation of captions, we need to be able to know that we can use it in conjunction with a caption editor. There's so many. I use Magpie, but there's several out there. For authoring systems primarily designed to produce print media, like your PageMaker, your Quark Express, or any rich media, which we don't have to worry about anymore, we're getting rid of Flash. Word processors like Word, or what does Mac use? Something, I forgot. But any of those presentations, like our what do they use?
Text edit.
Text edit.
Yeah.
Pages is the Apple version.
Oh, Pages. Oh, okay. I knew it was something different. Yeah. Presentations like our PowerPoint, Visio. Visio is a big issue. There's also a presentation software called Freelance, and then we have a new one. I just developed something in it. Can't think of the name of it. Prezi.
Now, Kianda, related to number one, the templates, I know that's something that you've been working on with Erin, and I'm not deeply involved. Can you just share in a nutshell the effort that exists to within the template building related to this?
Yeah, so it's going to depend on the organizational need. What I've found if you were developing, and I'll just speak to my personal experience, a template for a syllabus, that is much easier to make sure it's accessible, as opposed to my developing a template, an accessible template for Canvas or for an LMS. That's going to really rely heavily on the LMS's ability to be conformant. So even say, for example, we're developing a template for our articulate storyline, we still have our limitations because we are limited in what storyline is going to give us to make sure that we can do that. Engage, totally accessible. Storyline does have some limitations, but it's easy to work around. Those limitations cannot be taken away in a template. Those limitations are always going to be there. We can't take that away. That's just how the software is. So what ATAG is asking you to do is to find maybe a plugin or a way to make up for that limitation. And I'll use a broad example, which is totally, we still have this struggle in authoring tools, drag and drop. If we were going to do a drag and drop and say you want to have a template for drag and drop interactions, the template should be matching. The template should not be drag and drop, because if you did a template for drag and drop, it would be inaccessible. And there's nothing you can do about that because that's how the software is developed. So what you have to do is create something that how Section 508 says in Section 504, a similar experience. So a similar experience to a drag and drop would be matching, and it's accessible. However, it's not going to look exactly like the template for drag and drop. It's not going to function the same way. So that would have to be an option. You would have your drag and drop in your screen, and then you have a link there that says accessible version. Your accessible version would be your matching. Did that answer your question, Karen, I think. Who
I think
asked me?
so, yeah.
Who asked it? Karen, yeah. Yeah. So developing templates, we are still held at the mercy of our software, but we need to make sure that we have a way to work around in a way that's compatible. And that's not going to be inclusive of changing the software. We're not going to be able to change the software. So we have to think of a way to either use a plugin or to use an accessible version of whatever activity or feature that we're trying to replicate as the template. The template cannot be inaccessible. You cannot have a drag and drop as part of your template. Did I finish this? Oh yeah, I see number 5. Did I go over number 5? No. If an authoring tool is being used to retrofit an existing site, say if you were using it to, instead of using Blackboard modules, you wanted to replace it with storyline interaction or storyline presentation, and it doesn't prompt for any accessibility retrofitting issues, there are tools out there that will interject itself and it will prompt for missing accessibility information, and it provides a means to insert that missing information. So let's say we were going to substitute that Blackboard module and use it, instead we were going to use a storyline. There's tools. I use a prompt. A prompt works fine, but there are several others. If a prompt saw that my storyline interaction was not accessible, it would interject and tell me, hey, you need to do these things. Blackboard has its own product that's similar to a prompt. It's called Ally, and Ally works very well too, but it's very, very expensive. If an authoring tool does not insert the DDT, which is what we need for validating markups of HTML, your XHTML, look for an extension that inserts the appropriate DDT, the document type, or just do it by hand. Just make sure that your document types the extensions can be manually changed. If it doesn't support CSS, use it with a style sheet editor that it does support. There are several others as opposed to CSS. There's other cascading style sheets. If it doesn't display linear versions of a table, use something like Wave, or what's the new one that comes? I know people use Wave a lot, but you can use something similar to Wave or Axe, AXE, some type of browser, or even a text browser emulator, something of that nature, that will help you fix your tables, and it'll let you know if your tables are being read vertical or horizontal in a way that it makes sense to your users. If an authoring tool does not preserve your accessibility information during authoring, for example, I know it's not necessary, it could be an authoring tool, but not necessarily. When we convert things from Word to PDF, and let's just say your Word document was so accessible, then when it went over to PDF, it wasn't anymore. Happens all the time. You need to either edit it by hand or go back and try to reconvert it, or just get a new tool to use. For something like Word to PDF conversion, you're going to most likely have to edit it in the PDF, which a lot of people don't have the skill set or the right version of PDF. They have a PDF reader. They don't necessarily have a PDF developer access to go in and change the tags or change the heading levels or the reading order. If your authoring tool automatically generates alternatives like Word, how it automatically gives us those alt text things, we can actually turn off that function, or we have to go through and manually check each item and correct the alt text on it. Storyline does not automatically generate alternative text, so we're safe in that area. All right, so we have a few more minutes. I want to get to...
Kiana, can I ask a question about that?
Sure.
we're looking at the courses, and it looks like we're going to have to potentially print syllabus, and it outputs into, I save it as PDF. Is there a tool that we can use to run it through to make sure that it's accessible and meets the requirements, or is it something that is documented? Or I guess, just from personal experience, I would just PDF a document, upload it, and be done with it. Obviously, that's not the right way to do it, but that's how I've done it in the past. And so just wondering what
So you're asking
that process
if you
will look
have a
like.
PDF that's not accessible, is there a tool to make it accessible?
Well, I don't know, because when we use that print syllabus and within Blackboard, and whatever that syllabus is built in is some third party, I have no idea what it even looks like, because it's I haven't even seen it. And so once it outputs the data into some sort of format, I assume we're going to have to run a test on it to make sure that it conforms to at least AA standards.
Yep. And there, you can use Acrobat. Adobe actually has a built-in feature for you to check accessibility of PDF documents, and it's called Acrobat. You have to have the version of Acrobat that's called DC, and Acrobat
Okay.
DC is the professional. But I believe, and you might want to check, because I have Acrobat DC, so I can run accessibility checks through Acrobat. But I believe in a regular Acrobat, you can at least hit the tags in your left-hand navigation of Adobe Acrobat. If you have a PDF up, that left-hand navigation, that menu, I believe it gives you the tags there. And you can at least see your tagging structure in your reading order for the most part, I believe, in the free version. But I do know
We will have, we actually have it. We have Adobe Acrobat DC people.
Nice.
So
Right.
when you download and install your Creative Cloud, you will have that. So we're all supposed to be getting it, right? So.
Well, yes, we do. We are going to get it. It's just a matter of, we can run it and then and then the process of making sure we're following the guidelines is a little bit nebulous in terms of, well, first, I haven't even seen the content as a PDF. So, is this documented or captured in, say, either a checklist, or, what things that we should be looking for to ensure that just the syllabus portion of it is correct. And then the other problem is that's for some of our courses actually will have Word documents. So when we convert the Word to PDF, that's another potential process change.
You have to check it again. So Acrobat DC, this is the accessibility checker, is based on level AA. You would find it in your right-hand navigation once you download your Acrobat DC, and you just make sure everything is checked. Start checking. It'll give you a report. It'll check every page. It gives you a report, and it tells you exactly how to fix if anything is wrong with it. Not only will it run the report, but it'll tell you how to fix it. Now, this left-hand navigation, I believe, is offered in the free version. I'm not sure. But like, you can go here, you click on your tags, you can see your tag structure. So if anything is not tagged or tagged weirdly, you can go ahead and fix it there. Now, if you look at my report, it came back with 2 issues. And these are, I believe, issues that would be considered manual. So it's not necessarily going to say, well, everything that, it says needs manual check. So it's not going to be able to check some things like the logical reading order and color contrast. It can't check that. I have to do that on my own. So I can do my manual reading order by selecting the Z here, and I can see the reading order, which is super important. Like it says 3, 4, 5, 6, which is great. Now, if it said 3, 6, 4, 5, then my screen reader would read 3, 4, 6. It wouldn't read it in order. So this is a great feature to have. And you can run your documents through. It takes 2 seconds. And you can see every screen. And if there is an issue with anything, I I don't have any issues because this is one of my documents. So there's no issues in it, but typically it'll tell you how to say if something was wrong with, I didn't have something tagged and I clicked on it. It'll say, this is how you fix it. And it'll tell you how to fix it right here. You don't have to go through the source document, but you got to have Adobe DC.
Listen, I've got an actual one right here in front of me. I just pulled it up. I just added accessibility checker. Can I share screen with you and you can
Absolutely.
sort of have the real thing here? Would you mind?
Yeah, because my documents, it's gonna be hard for me to find one.
Yeah, no, this is a real thing. This is the art of influencing policy. And so
Oh,
it's a
go
good
ahead.
example.
Go ahead and share, please.
I can't. You've disabled share screen.
Did not. You're not being, you know. I told the thing to let anybody hear. Hold on. Let me let you share.
Okay.
All right. You should be able to share.
Okay. So there it is. Okay. Everybody see my screen?
Yep.
Okay. So here's accessibility checker. What you have to do is you have to go into tools and actually add it. But because Kianda, because you've done this so long, you added it probably quite a while ago. But you have to go into the tools and you have to add it. That's what I did. Then I ran accessibility report, and this is what I've got. Now, what should I be running, Kianda?
That's fine. Your accessibility report is perfectly fine. So go ahead and open up, and then you go there, look at your primary language. That's an easy fix. You can actually right click on that and you can select fix, I believe, for that one. Yep. Right click on it, select fix, and that'll fix it for you. That's one of those easy ones. Title, I believe you can right click and fix. And just say what you want. You can call it whatever you want.
Okay, it says it locks it out, but I guess I unlock it. There we go. So the art of influencing policy. So let's see, I'll put
That's good enough.
and
Yeah, that's good enough for a screen reader.
Yep.
All right.
Okay,
then,
so
but something like tagged content now, you're going to have to go through each one. That's not going to allow you to fix it on your own. So you hit the down arrow, that little arrow that's going to the right, and
yep.
Yeah, and hit the down, yeah, and that'll show you where your items that need to be tagged. So then you'll find any of your items there. Does it show? Oh, it's showing that as an image. Oh, wow.
How do you know that,
man.
Kianda?
That needs to be ran as OCR. Okay, I know it's an image because it's saying it highlighted the whole thing, which tells me that it thinks that's an image. So just run your OCR. Yeah, just go in your search, run OCR, and it'll find the text for you because somebody uploaded it.
In the tool search or in this search?
Where's your I don't know where you would have put your OCR search. Mine is, I can type. Where's your search? Yours is different.
Add OCR.
There you go.
I just added it.
Yep. And scan.
Now I'm back.
There you go. See, I already have mine set up. And
okay,
then
now.
Go ahead and select recognize. First, I would enhance it and then recognize text.
How do I enhance? Oh, I see. Okay. Scan document. Scan document, is that what I use?
That's correct.
Okay, and then recognize text and then enhance, right?
Yeah, well, go ahead and enhance it first. Yeah, go ahead and click enhance. Just go ahead and click it, enhance. It'll run it for you. Yeah, it's running it for you. It's trying to make the document look like an actual document and not like an image. Hopefully that might help you. It doesn't always help.
Uh-huh.
Now you have to rerun your checker.
Accessibility checker?
Yep, and see if you get that same issue again. It should have fixed it right there if it were fixed. I don't think it is.
Start checking?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Nope.
Sorry, I'm learning as fast as I can.
Nope. That didn't help you at all. This document needs to be, you need the source document, you need the Word. So what I typically do is I file export as a Word document. I fix the issues in Word and then I convert it back to PDF if it's too many.
Okay.
Because there's too many issues in this document for you to fix it in a PDF. Go ahead and file, you will hit your file, export, Word, and then go ahead and fix all the issues in Word, and then go ahead and do your file, save as PDF.
Okay, so let's see, close that, file, export, let's see,
You're using a
where's the
Mac.
export at?
That's
Huh?
why you're using a Mac.
Oh, it's the Mac version, okay. Yeah. Oh yeah, there it is, okay, file, export to Microsoft Word, there it is, okay, and then I'm gonna call this course syllabus, Art of Influencing.
And then go ahead and fix any issues that it tells you here in this PDF, fix those issues in your Word version. And then save it as a PDF. That way you can reduce your errors.
Okay, so I need to find them so we have to find them first in the PDF checker, and then we have to go in and fix them in here, is that right?
I recommend that because you don't want to try to fix it in a PDF checker because your errors are too numerous.
But you would run the Adobe checker in case there aren't that many errors to save you this step.
Oh, absolutely. Just run your checker. You probably won't have any issues. Most of the issues you can right click and fix right there. Something like tag content, or if it's a scanned document that someone just faxed over, and this looks like a fax or something weird like that. It looks like a printout of an email, actually. If someone did something like that, then go ahead and move it over to Word so that you can make sure that the words are recognized as actual words, because sometimes the OCR reader does not catch all words.
Yeah, in this case, it caught everything.
Yeah, it looks great.
I don't know I'm not sure how you can say that with confidence that it caught everything. That's the skeptical
Well,
part of
because
me.
you would see it. It looks like a mess. When OCR isn't recognized,
yeah,
it's
you
really
would definitely
messy.
know. You would know. It might
Oh
be
yeah.
letters.
It is ugly. It is really ugly when OCR doesn't work. Isn't it, Kianda? It's really awful.
A nightmare when it doesn't work. You have to go back to the the author of the document and ask them for the original. That's worst case scenario, but I've only had to do that a handful of times. I'm usually able to either fix it in PDF or I have a way to convert it to the original version, whatever it was.
Now I thought we were putting the syllabus in natively in Ultra. I thought that's what we were doing.
I don't think so. I think let me go into the prototype. I'm pretty sure it's a PDF that you just upload. But let me make sure.
That's going to cause more of a headache. It would be better to use the LMS.
Yeah, the problem is it is definitely a PDF. The problem is that the syllabus, a lot of them, including this one, have tables. And so once you have tables, it becomes definitely harder to convey information in Ultra.
And these are nested. These are nested.
Yeah.
It's even worse because they're nested tables. You can't just convert to, if I go to the table and I try to, because I tried this earlier, I tried to convert this. If you try to convert it, there's nested tables there. It is the nastiest thing you've ever seen in your life. And look at that. That's a frame itself. Oh, how awful.
Yeah. That's
so if you do a little bit of finagling with that, it can be fixed. However,
a lot of finagling.
I can expect that most of your PDFs that are going to come from your faculty or that are going to come through this conversion are probably going to be inaccessible.
Yep, and it's going to take quite a bit of work to get these, just this one document in line.
Yeah. Especially if you don't have the right tools, or you don't know exactly what it is you're supposed to be doing, it'll take you forever to do this. I could probably do this really quickly for you just because I know the tools and I work with these type of documents all the time. So that is not a big deal for me to do. Something like this is very easy. It gets hard for me when it's a 200-page manual.
So what are we going to do here? Because we got to get these courses out, and this is the big accessibility item, although there might be others, but this is the biggest one.
Well, we can get with Dara and see if you guys would like for me to take on the PDFs. Just send me the PDFs and let me do let me try to do the revisions on a PDF, and I'll send them back to you. I can do that if it's okay with Dara and Karen. That's the only thing I can offer, because it doesn't take me long to do PDFs, as long as they're, a syllabus is 1 or 2 pages. So, I mean, that take me like an hour to finish.
I think what we're
Okay.
going to run into here is that this print view is significantly different than the template that Rebecca put in the domestic violence course. So it would almost be better to have the Word template that they want us to use and put the content in there and go from there.
Oh.
It would be better for us to use whatever Rasmussen's template is, rather than end up having to backtrack because we've printed the screen or, kind of tried to do this as a workaround based off of whatever we could export out of the courses.
So is that in the Rasmussen site, the Blackboard Rasmussen
Yeah,
site, or not?
Go into version 3 and open up the syllabus.
Version 3 of the course.
domestic
Okay.
violence.
Okay. Let's see here.
Reggie?
Yeah.
Can you do it? Can you show us? It might be easier.
Yeah.
How do I relinquish the
Make her
screen?
host. Just make her the host.
Okay, stop sharing.
Yeah, let me pull it up.
There, I stopped sharing, and let's see.
Yeah, click the 3 dots on her face and then make host.
Let's see, all participants. Okay, I think you can do it now. Rachel, can you or not?
Yeah.
Oh,
There we go.
good. Oh, thank goodness. Thank you.
Okay, so I think so here's the course syllabus right now, and it's loaded in as a file. You guys up here. So if I go to edit, I can't see if this is actually it doesn't give me the tag.
You don't want to edit it, just click on it.
Yeah,
I
You just want to view it, right?
I wanted to see what type of file it was.
Yeah, it's a PDF.
Now you can download it.
Yep.
Now I can download it. So what we needed to get from Rebecca is the Word template that she used.
Yeah.
Because there's unless this was actually in the original course as a PDF and she just printed it and saved it off as a PDF, we're going to need that so that the colors match, because there's probably a standard that their ETS or their TLC department uses to keep it consistent across the university.
No, you're right. You're absolutely right.
So, because this is something that is probably required by their accreditors and probably managed by their institutional effectiveness department, because they would have to correlate catalog all of the syllabi, either in institutional effectiveness or the registrar's office.
But the irony is that it may not be accessible, right? So
Correct.
That's the interesting part, is that this doesn't look like, look at it, Kianda. Do you think this is accessible the way they made it?
Knowing what I know about Rasmussen, I'm going to say no.
So then,
Yeah.
John and Rachel, what are we going to do?
My recommendation is that we take the PDF, print the syllabus as PDF, and Kianda graciously offered to help us make them accessible. We make it accessible, and then
but that won't fulfill their
right. It won't
requirement.
fulfill. Well, it's the syllabus that they provided, and it's the syllabus that they have obviously given us, and so we are just making it accessible and re-uploading the content. Now, so the thing
No, wait.
Hold on. Let me finish my thought. The document, that course that I have is a CBE course. I don't know that Rebecca mentioned how it's potentially a different type of course. So that might explain why our course that I saw is different than this version of this domestic violence. So I think we should. This is my recommendation: is we proceed as is. We leverage Kianda's graciousness, and we inform the client that this syllabus that we're uploading is different than the domestic violence one, and we need to just know that for our purposes, because we have to our goal is to try to have our sprint courses done by Wednesday. We really don't have time to wait for a Rasmussen response, given how we already know that they are slow. So that's my reasoning.
I disagree. I think that we need to ask Rasmussen for the template and get sign off on what the next steps need to be, because if we go about doing it this way, the way that you're proposing, John, we're just going to have to backtrack and redo it this way.
Well, we don't know that, but there is a risk of having to redo our work. And unfortunately, given where we are, and our courses are now going to be the next iteration of our prototype, and we might have to go back anyway. So basically what we're going to hand them on Friday is going to be wildly different than what we hand them, let's say, at the end of sprint 3. And so it is where we are, and I think we just need to realize that these courses are, we can only do the best that we can. And
I think that the best that we can do is we can ask for the template, and maybe maybe this is something that is an easy ask and they can provide it to us tomorrow morning.
Or we just offer an accessible version of what they give us.
Or they,
and that's what I'm advocating, is that what Kiana is saying is, they have offered.
We can keep their original one that they send, and then we also just include the accessible version of that.
Yeah.
So we're not getting rid of anything.
Oh no, we won't get rid of anything. That's not what I'm advocating. It's that we have a syllabus that looks like what's on the screen. We have a syllabus that is definitely more generic and what you saw earlier from Kevin's screen. And given that we're supposed to have these courses done by tomorrow, the fastest and easiest solution is just to use what they've provided us. That's sort of what I'm advocating.
I think that in my case, like, I can't print the screen, so Kevin had to pull mine. So it would be faster and probably more accessible to copy and paste that content into an accessible Word document that is formatted properly. I just need that Word template.
Right, and someone needs to create that, because as Kiana said, so one, we have to get that file from Rasmussen. And then two, we got to modify that file to be accessible. And then we need to put the content in.
Well, I'm searching really quick to see if they have one that is already loaded on one of their sites.
It's not a matter of loaded, though. It's a matter of accessibility. I mean, even if it's loaded, even if they have something, if it's not accessible to begin with, and then we go and we start putting it together, then she's going to have to modify it.
We can give it to Kiana. She can make the template accessible from the beginning before we start populating the content.
Kiana, what are your thoughts?
I agree with that. An accessible template in Word is much easier than me trying to repair an inaccessible PDF. Yes, that's true. Now, I don't know about policy and what the policy or what that's looking like, but I can just say for accessibility wise, it is much easier for me to repair the original raw file than it is for me to go into the PDF and try to repair it. It takes a little longer, but it can be done. It's not a big deal. If I had to go through the PDF and repair it, I can.
Now listen, we're now at 1:20 in the afternoon on Tuesday. You're going to have this done by what? Tomorrow? Tomorrow afternoon? Is that correct?
That
Guys?
is the goal to where we can provide Thursday for the QA portion of this, and then Thursday, hopefully Thursday afternoon for fixes, and then repeat the process on Friday. But given that where we are, we might only have one ability for one iterative or one iteration, sorry.
Okay, so Rachel and John, if you guys want to reach out and get this file, that's fine. But keep in mind that if she takes her time to get back with us, and it takes her 2 hours, Keonda's only got an hour and a half, 2 hours to make the template accessible. Then we've got 3 courses with content that need to be plugged in. And then she's going to have to look at those and make sure they're accessible for us. I mean, that's what we got.
Right.
So,
and that assumes that Keonda has a whole slew of time to work on this afternoon, and it's already
Keonda, I'm looking at your face. You don't look like very hopeful.
No, right. And so I ideally we would have, you know, what we need to get it to a point where we are at least 99.9% confident that things are accessible. So Keonda, I know you're going to be the one that's impacted by this. Would you prefer that Kevin is the only one who can print the syllabus? Would you prefer that he sends you the PDF versions of those courses that we're all working on as PDF for you to, you know, do your thing, or to start the process of asking, well, let me say, or start the process of getting the Word document, fixing that Word document and make it into a template for accessibility, and then add the content into that new Word template.
Yeah,
John,
I work concurrently. Like, I'll go ahead and start on a PDF while you guys try to get the original template.
I just slacked Keonda I converted the one that's in the domestic violence into a Word document.
Okay, great, got it.
Cool.
So
okay, and I've got the 2 files on my machine for my course now.
Yeah.
I can actually get them to you. John, I can get yours to her. Keonda, I'm talking about you as if you're not here. Don't mean to. And I've got the Word and the original version of my course. The other thing is, what we didn't mention is, in theory, we could take the one from domestic violence, and she could go ahead and turn that into a Word document, and then
that's what Rachel
do her magic. I don't know what else to do.
Right. So that's what Rachel did, Kevin. And so, Kevin, why don't you go ahead and send it to Keonda, and then Keonda, you can take a look at all the files and sort of make a recommendation as to what you think is best, knowing that the file needs to be uploaded by end of business tomorrow for the 2 courses, ideally all 6. There are 6 of them. And so we're only working 1 each right now, but there is a second set that we haven't even talked about. So analyze what you have, what's been sent to you, and then based on what you see, we will do what you recommend, and we can start the process of getting the Word document from, hopefully a template from Rasmussen, and then also explore if they mean that they want this to happen, because CBE versus traditional or whatever is something that we need to also explore, that the client wants this to happen. So does that all sound fair based on, did I put that out in a pretty fair manner of what needs to happen?
I think so. What about you, Kianda? How do you feel?
Yeah, just send me what you have as soon as possible. I do have Rachel's now, so I'll jump on that real quick.
Rachel, can you get your own, or do you want me to do that? Either way, I'm good. I can get your course and get the PDF for you, or if you can do it yourself, that's great. What can I do for you?
I'm loading up Intro to Communication. Just see, that's the only one that I don't have yet. So I'm just checking that right now if I need you to pull it.
Yeah, if you're able to pull it, that's great.
I will need to jump off in a couple minutes.
Yeah, I'm over.
Yeah, definitely. But this was good. This was good that you guys definitely put some fire under your butts.
Yeah,
Kevin,
well,
I will need you to print the syllabus for the art.
For the art of what?
The art in the workplace one. Art in the world and the workplace.
Art in the world and the workplace. Okay. Let me go in and get that.
This one looks very simple.
Yeah.
I bet the art course one will be cake for Kianda.
You want the original from the original experience? That's the one you want, right? Or is it the ultra one?
The original experience. I haven't even looked at those.
If Kianda can finalize the template, I can just copy the Intro to Communications into it, because it's pretty straightforward. It's only like 4 headers. So I don't need you to pull that one, Kevin.
Okay.
All right. Okay. Well, I'm going to jump off too and go ahead and get started. You guys let me know if you have any questions or whatever. I'll be on Slack. And don't forget, I'm on Eastern Standard Time.
Right.
Yeah, I'll send it to you. I already sent you the docs on Slack from me, and I'm going to send you another one soon, okay?
Okay, I'll be there.
All right.
Thank you, Kianda.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.